Manchester City are hosting the Italian champions, Inter Milan, in the opening fixture of this season's Champions League campaign. But meanwhile, that monstrous football club, Man United, are facing Barnsley. Bloody Barnsley. Tonight, League Cup, hot action. Man United versus Barnsley. Can you believe it? Oh, how the mighty have fallen, eh? How the mighty have fallen. You can almost hear them now. Those entitled, delusional Manchester United fans. But we're Man United. But we're Man United. But we're Man United. That old chestnut, that phrase that keeps being pulled out of the holster by Manchester United fans, the entitlement of those guys knows no bounds. And Manchester United are facing Barnsley tonight. Oh, the difference between Manchester City and Man United nowadays. You got Manchester City on one hand, and then Man United. Barnsley. Manchester City. Man United. Playing Barnsley. Manchester City. Man United. Playing fucking Barnsley. Oh, don't you just love it? I can't wait for this. Champions League football is back once again for Manchester City, and it's a formality, isn't it? We, of course, are in this tournament, and we deserve to be there as the champions of England. That's why we're here. Champions of England taking on the champions of Italy, and I cannot wait for this one. Come and join me for the watch-along tomorrow night. Of course, I will be doing a watch-along. Incredibly excited for this one, but Inter Milan, we know what to expect from them. It's going to be a really, really difficult game, a difficult team to break down. We saw that in the Champions League final. They were very, very compact, very tight, but they did have a sting in their tail, and it took a lot of quality last-ditch defending from Ederson and Ruben Diaz in that final 10-15 minutes of that Champions League final. I remember that last 15 minutes felt like an eternity against Inter Milan, and they do have a threat going the other way, so you don't want to think of them as this parking the bus side, this Italian side that will just come and defend. I imagine there will be a large portion of the game played like that, but they do have a threat going the other way. With Thuram, who's got off to a reasonably good start this season, and Martinez, who hasn't, to be honest. I don't think he's got a goal or an assist to his name yet this season, but still, they've got quality players. That one player in particular, Nico Barella, is absolutely sensational in that midfield. But we know what to expect from Inzaghi. The issue for me, from an Inter Milan perspective, is they haven't got off to the greatest of starts this season, drawing 2 of their 4 league games so far, with the opening game of the season being a draw to Genoa, 2-2, away from home. And then most recently, they played Monza at the weekend and drew 1-1. Both of those games away from home, when normally last season, if I remember rightly, I think they won 13 out of their 15 away games last season, Inter Milan. So normally very, very good on the road. Already off to a tragic start with 4 dropped points in those 2 games in Serie A, and they find themselves 3rd in the league table. I fully expect them to go and win Serie A with the squad depth that they've got, the quality that they can rotate with. And they rotated heavily at the weekend, mind you, so you can expect a few fresh players. Bastoni is going to come back in, Barella's going to come back in, and that's probably why they dropped points. But obviously one eye on Manchester City for the upcoming Champions League fixture, which is to be understood. But their fixtures in the Champions League, I've got them here in front of me. I'm just looking at their fixtures for the Champions League, and they haven't got the greatest of draws, in all truth, with the new format playing its part. They play away from home the English champions, Manchester City, Wednesday night, and of course the German champions in Bayer Leverkusen, both fixtures away from home. And then they also face what you could say is the second best side in England, Arsenal, at home, which makes 3 of their 8 opening games incredibly difficult fixtures for Inter Milan. And I mean, worst case scenario, if they weren't to pick up any points in those situations, in those 3 games, it makes their other 5 games must-win games. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but if I remember rightly, I think it's Young Boys and Red Star are in there. So games you expect Inter Milan to win in the other 5 games, but it puts the pressure on them, and you could call this a free hit, really, for Inter Milan to go away to the champions of England, coming here to not expecting to win, but anything else is a bonus. If they can get a point, or even worse, from a City perspective, 3 points on the board, then Manchester City, I feel like with the other 7 fixtures after this, we have time to recover, but that would be a sensational start for Inter Milan if they can even get a point at the Etihad, but I expect it to be difficult. They have lost 3 in their last 20 Champions League games, winning 11 and drawing 6. So they're not shy of defending, and that drawing 6 is an indication of that they turn up not to be beaten. Not necessarily to always win, but definitely do not get beaten. That is their ultimate aim in these games, and knockout football, it suits that. It suits that approach. A league format, you might need to win some games, or more frequently at least. So it's really, really interesting. But to counter that, the opening fixtures of Inter Milan's last 9 Champions League games, they've only won 1 out of the last 9 opening fixtures in a Champions League campaign. So they don't get off to the greatest of starts in their Champions League campaign. So maybe Manchester City can make the most of that. But Inzaghi, you're going to expect that same 3-5-2 system that we saw in the Champions League final against Manchester City. We're very, very tight, very compact. I do think there's an ageing midfield in there in Chananolu. That's the name you just say quickly, isn't it? That's one of those names that you just go like that, isn't it? Anyone who struggles with pronunciations, you just go Chananolu like that, don't you? Chananolu, I think it's how you officially... Hakan Chananolu is, I think, how you officially pronounce that. But Mkhitaryan as well. Those two, Chananolu is 30 years old and Mkhitaryan is 35 years old. So I can't believe he's still playing in one of their main starters as well. He started at the weekend. He came off in the 56th minute. Mkhitaryan did against Monza, which is an indication that they were probably pulling him off the pitch to get him rested for this game. So I have a feeling he might start against Manchester City in a midfield that I think, it's lacking a little bit of energy now. And I think Manchester City, obviously Nico Barella is a sensational player. Scored a wonderful goal this season. I think it was against Atalanta with a left foot volley into that bottom corner. Fantastic goal from Barella. So, their midfield's dangerous. But we've got Erling Haaland. It's as simple as that. It's very, very simple when you have a player like Erling Haaland who's got 41 goals in 39 Champions League games. It's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's have a look at the team news as well. Only Buchanan is missing for Inter Milan, and Manchester City is still missing Oscar Bob. Not likely to see him until Christmas time, roughly. Nice little present from Santa that would be to see Oscar Bob wrapped up with a bow. Nathan Ake, of course, as well. He's out for the foreseeable future. Hopefully a bit sooner than Christmas. That would be nice. But let's have a look at the predicted starting 11. Let's go with Inter Milan to begin with, because I do think it's pretty simple. Jan Sommer, who I swear we've faced him so many times. He's been in the bags for opposition side so many times at Bayern Munich as well, and I felt like we always play against him. But yeah, a good goalkeeper. Francesco Acerbi in the middle, and I think we're going to see Alessandro Bastoni coming into the left centre-back, as well as Benjamin Pavard, who we were linked with last season, quite heavily linked with Benjamin Pavard, who forced his move away from Bayern Munich eventually. Federico Di Marco is going to be a left wing-back, and Matteo Darmian as a right wing-back. Then that midfield that I spoke about, I think we're going to expect in the midfield, and Mkhitaryan in there with Nico Barella. And that midfield three is very technically able, very, like I said, the technicality in that midfield is very, very good. I just feel like those two players in Chananolu and Mkhitaryan, the second half will be interesting to see if we can expose their age a little bit. And then up top, you got Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram, who has got a fair few goals to his name. A bit of a poacher, number 9 for Inter Milan, he's a poacher, the Frenchman. He's good. He's good in front of goal. A fox in the box, someone we need to be very, very careful of. Manchester City, Edison in goal for me, and I want to see that back line as it was at the start of the season. I don't want to see John Stones and Kyle Walker, please. Now, with all due respect to John Stones and Kyle Walker who isn't in everyone's favourite books right now. I don't think City fans are big fans of him at the minute, and I'm disappointed in that, but I do think he was poor against Brentford. Both John Stones in particular was poor against Brentford. So I want to see Ruben Diaz come in and provide that solidity. Josko Gvardiol, who had a fantastic second half against Brentford, and Manuel Akanji, who's been putting through his paces, in all honesty. He's playing a lot of football already this season, Manuel Akanji. Someone else that we might need to consider rotating. Not in this game and not against Arsenal, but we'll have to wait and see. I want to see Rico Lewis in that right-back inverted role, doing this sort of positional side of things where he gets into the midfield, and I think it's time for Rodri to get his first start of the season in a Manchester City shirt. which is harsh on Kovacic, but I do feel like he was a little bit isolated against Brentford. Kovacic, not his greatest first half. He was booked, which kind of helped Pep Guardiola make his mind up for him to bring Kovacic off the pitch and get Rodri on, get him some minutes. Now we're into the debating area of the pitch where I think there's a lot of options. One is Kevin De Bruyne. There's no debate that Kevin De Bruyne needs to start in midfield. Now it's like, well, Phil Foden. Where's Phil Foden? He was on the bench against Brentford, but he didn't play at all. Didn't come on, didn't get a single minute, which is why I think it would be risky to throw him into a starting 11 against Inter Milan with only the minutes that he got against Chelsea in the first game of the season under his belt. I would like to think Phil Foden could start this game, but with match practice not being at its top draw level yet for Phil Foden, I would expect Bernardo Silva to still start this game ahead of Phil Foden, and maybe Phil Foden can come on in the second half, circumstances depending, of course, but if we can get Phil Foden 20 minutes in the second half, something like that, also the energy of Phil Foden coming on to expose the likes of Mkhitaryan and that would be brilliant. But I do think Bernardo Silva is the man to start this game purely because of what I just said, basically, about the minutes, the lack of minutes from Phil Foden. But he needs to get minutes in this game. Otherwise, he won't be getting the starting 11 against Arsenal either. And it's like, well, where is Phil Foden, last season's player of the season? He's not even starting any games for us, and he's available. He was on the bench against Brentford. So maybe we'll see him start this game. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bernardo Silva. But you never know with Pep now, do you? But the wide side of Manchester City, the wingers of Manchester City, I think I want to see the Savinho-Doku combination, mainly because on one side of the pitch, Inter Milan have got Bastoni and DiMarco. Very, very difficult players to get past. Bastoni, by the way, little tip that we need to watch out for, his throw-ins, mate. His long throw-ins are lethal. They are a secret weapon. Not quite Rory Delap-esque, but, still very, very dangerous set-piece weapon that Inter Milan have there, with Marcus Thuram getting a couple of goals this season from long throw-ins from Bastoni. So Ruben Diaz, Akanji and Gvardiol need to be switched on for those long throw-ins that are going to come in from Bastoni. But from a defensive point of view and an attacking point of view from City's side, they're going to be difficult to break down on either side. And like I said, on the other side, you've got Benjamin Pavard and Matteo Darmian, who are both, the wing-backs are going to be tucking in and doubling up against whichever wingers. And I would rather see a Doku trying to take on these two players rather than a Jack Grealish. Because I feel like Jack Grealish isn't going to break down the door of Inter Milan because he doesn't have that. I think he does, but not to the level of a Doku or a Savinho, that ability to just bypass a player with a bit of sensational skill. I don't think Grealish has got that in his locker. He brings a level-headed, pragmatic approach to the game, which I'm not sure is required in this game because tactically and defensively, Inter Milan, again, the shape of Inter Milan is going to be so difficult to break down that I think intricate passing might not be the answer. Just a little bit of aggressive dribbling, just to bash your way, smash your way through with raw power and agility and dribbling ability, which Savinho and Doku have in abundance. So these are the two players that I want to see start this game. The only question is, which side of the pitch do you want to see them start, left or right? I prefer Doku on the right and Savinho on the left because that's them on their natural-footed side. But I imagine Pep's probably going to do it the other way. Not my preference, in all truth, but I would love to see them play on their natural sides. But either player on one side of the pitch I think is exciting for Manchester City and going to be difficult for Inter Milan to stop. Obviously, the final man, the final piece of the puzzle, the best piece of the puzzle so far this season is the big man, Erling Haaland. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult, Blues. Don't forget to hit the video with a like and a subscribe if you're new. My prediction is, I don't know, it's going to be close. I feel like this could be 2-1, a close game. I think Inter Milan are going to offer something the other way and try and get a goal. If we go 1-0 down again like we did against Ipswich, like we did against Brentford, we could be in trouble because it won't be as easy. We got a fortunate break. The ball broke to Erling Haaland in that second half, fortunately, against Brentford. I don't think we'll get that level of luck against Inter Milan. They won't allow us back in the game as easily as Brentford did if you go 1-0 down, and as easily as Ipswich did. They just collapsed, didn't they? It was like bang, 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 3-1 in the blink of an eye. Inter Milan will not do that. You give them a 1-0 head start, this could be a difficult game. We've got to get the first goal, and even then it'll still prove to be a difficult game. But I'm going 2-1. Get your predictions in below. Let me know your thoughts, Blues. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is typical City now.